with this part, I wanted to start talking about, okay, what really is maybe the main cause for so many projects, you know, not having, a real vetting process, a real who gets to make these films, what are slated, and who gets to build on something that can go for 10 years, 15 years. And I think we can start talking about that with the announcements that Kathleen Kennedy is leaving at the end of 2025
Yeah.
from Lucasfilms. If you don't know who Kathleen Kennedy is, she was an executive producer of many films with Lucasfilm. When George was in charge of Lucasfilm, she was an executive producer for Steven Spielberg on movies, great movies like E.T., Jurassic Park, iconic Indiana Jones, iconic IPs that she was an executive producer on. But I think this is important to mention. I think this also goes to how people don't understand how films are made. An executive producer is of the business side. They help move the production along, they get the people needed, they help bring in the money. They are not the creatives. They're not. George was the creative. Steven Spielberg was the creative. And George trusted Kathleen Kennedy when he was signing over to Disney, that Disney had bring on Kathleen Kennedy to be the president of Lucasfilms and run it in a 10-15 year slate.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've been talking about what's been going on, but I really think there is a leadership issue here. I do.
It's been a leadership
And
issue.
if we look to places like Warner Brothers and DC right now, James Gunn taking over the helm and bringing in also his executive producer, friend, and coworker to run DC as a whole, you have to have the executive producer, but you have to have your creatives pick the artists, pick the writers, because they too know what it's like to go through this process. They too know what it's like to know when a script is fully fleshed out and done, and if there is a story and cohesive story made so that they can actually go into production and feel trust that what they make has something there, even if maybe the camera angles aren't always great, or even if the actors don't have always the great acting, but the story is there regardless. You need to have a creative in charge of this. And with Kathleen Kennedy stepping down, there is new possibilities of who will run Lucasfilms. There's huge discussions on this. Everyone is flocking to the idea of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
And
Yeah.
Carrie Beck.
And Carrie Beck. Dave Filoni helmed and worked with Lucasfilms and George Lucas to create Clone Wars. And again, I think that added such depth to the prequels. It did change, how people perceive the prequels because of shows like Clone Wars, like Rebels. He created those shows. Jon Favreau, we know what he did with MCU. He started with Iron Man. He's a fantastic filmmaker, and they are potentially looking to have maybe a duel. I don't know if I don't know if they're looking to have a duel. Maybe it's just Jon Favreau. Maybe it's just Dave Filoni.
No,
But
they want it to be two people. Um, their mentality is two heads are better than one, but we want someone on the creative side and we want someone who's more business oriented,
you need both.
which is fine. That's perfect. But I at the end of the day, you need someone who you don't need two heads. You
You don't think they
this
need
is
both, like a
no, they
producer
don't.
and the
They
creative?
just no, they don't. They need someone who keep the creative where the creative needs to be. They need to focus on the story. They need to have people that are aligned with the heart and soul of what Lucas would have wanted. Ignore, ignore people that would say, well, Star Wars is bigger than George Lucas, because those are people that they're right off the bat they're going with a point of arrogance that they think that they could have done it better if Star Wars was in their hands. Okay, that actually goes to Leslie Headland, making the comments that she did.
Oh, when she made the acolyte, yeah.
It's bigger than George Lucas, that he would never have done something like this. I'm paraphrasing, right? I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but you can have one studio head that's focused on the money, and they need to keep one thing damn clear. If I'm going to make money, I need someone that's in the creative that thinks, breathes, and lives the experience of George Lucas. You just need someone who understands their role and stays out of the way of the creative. If you have a studio head in Dave Filoni, okay, great. He understands, at least to a degree, of what George Lucas would have wanted. He's certainly the more veteran out of the picks for the studio head because he's worked long enough in the company. Um, if he's gonna treat it like he did with Clone Wars, which was a little more childish, that's okay too, right? Star Wars was for young children anyway when it was written. It just so happened to succeed with the older audience, and then as they grew up, they clung to it.
Right.
In Jon Favreau, you have a more veteran filmmaker and storyteller. So, in my opinion, that's more maturity. More mature themes can come from it. That's if you believe he even wants that role. I've heard he'd get paid significantly less
Right.
than if he were to just do his own thing with his own studio and run his own show. That's really a soul searching thing for him to go through.
Yeah. It's very time
Carrie,
consuming.
Carrie Beck, I've heard, was I you may have to correct me if I'm wrong, with like a disclaimer in the video. Um, I've heard that she really helped bring Clone Wars back as a series onto the platform, and has been a driving force in terms of, revitalizing Star Wars. I don't know too much about her. I've heard that the Acolyte was a great piece of content for her. I can't I can't confirm or deny that. Um, just whatever gets us as far away from the Acolyte and as close to the feel of Empire and Revenge of the Sith
Hmm.
in terms of tone, in terms of story, in terms of mythos as possible.
Right.
Get away from the idea of content. Get away
Yeah.
from that. This is so, and so that brings me to the final point. Kathleen Kennedy is, at the end of the day, is a successful producer.
Yes.
She was not a successful president. She
Yeah.
with the good
I
comes
agree.
with the bad. She greenlit and found the writers for The Mandalorian. She greenlit and found the writers for Rogue One and
Hmm.
Andor. Famously, I know, like I said, I know you like Andor,
I do like Andor a lot, actually.
but Tony Gilroy was not a fan of Star Wars.
Hmm.
He has been quoted as saying he was glad during COVID that there was the possibility that he wouldn't have to do the show because he did not want to write for Star Wars.
Right.
That's why a lot of the uh, like props, the simple themes of aliens, he didn't want to deal with it because it just wasn't his thing. He's more Jason Bourne. I totally understand that. Jason Bourne was a great story.
Hmm.
Okay, that was his thing. Perfect. Stick to that.
Yeah.
Okay, she brought him on. She was persistent, and that's how Andor season 2 was able to thrive because it built off of season 1, which was admittedly, and a lot of fans agree, they were split between we loved it
Yeah. And I
and
loved it.
we were bored by it. Okay?
Mhm.
Season 2, however, was great because it built off of season 1.
Right.
And that's the only way it was able to succeed. It already had a built in audience,
Yes.
and its tone and the pace and the overall George Lucasness
Right.
of the story was fleshed out toward the end
Yeah.
of the series. So you can give her that credit too. But at the end of the day, she didn't look at Star Wars as this glorious story
Hmm.
of legends, of mythos, of religion, of the human experience, of sacrifice and triumph. She didn't look at it like that. She looked at it from the bottom line.
Yeah.
And that's where that failure lies.
I actually want to a few points here because I think it's important again to mention of people understanding how studios work, how
Yeah.
film is made,
Yeah.
and who the differences between because I think a lot of people when they say movies they see a Netflix film,
Yeah.
they see a Max film, they see a Disney Plus film. They don't really anymore like in the olden days really talk about unless you're a Quentin Tarantino or Scorsese, who is the director and writers of these IPs of these projects, and with the when you don't have a creative head in charge of picking the people who are going to write scripts who have a history of writing good scripts and and oh my god, I was about to say content. I was about to say content.
See?
I almost
That's
slapped
a
myself in
word
the face
I want
there.
stricken from the English dictionary.
Good film.
Content
Good,
needs to be gone
good
when it comes
stories.
to films.
Not content, stories, film.
Content is what you put in a magazine.
Yeah.
Not on the silver
when you put on a
screen.
website and you just want to fill out your white space on your website, what's in the contents is the words on a page. It's not the story of the book. It's the words in the font on the page. But when you pick someone who is not the creative head, who doesn't pick the writers with the history of being able to tell stories, and let's be honest, Kathleen Kennedy, she lucked out with Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy has
That's
a history.
networking for you.
Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One, they have a history of writing decent stories. Hi, Bubba. They have a history of writing decent stories, of being directors, and creating projects that are noteworthy. So when, of course, they come in, even if he isn't a fan of Star Wars, even if he isn't a fan of the prequels and originals, if he hasn't read the books, he still did his homework for what was important of the Empire and the story he wanted to tell in Andor. And that was the success, not because of Kathleen Kennedy's choice. I know he's come out and said Kathleen Kennedy is the one that allowed me to go into the areas where I needed to go. I think she was just like, you know what, nothing has worked in the past. We've stopped people from being able to be creative and do what they want to do in the past. And with Tony, obviously he's a vet. He's known how to make movies. We probably should just allow him to do what he wants to do. And with Andor, I think Andor is Disney Plus's most successful show at this point. It is its most successful show.
It brought back Battlefront 2.
At
least for a time.
It did.
I mean, it was a 10-year-old game at least.
But it proves the point of you need the artist to pick the other artists. You need the artists with the history
not the bean counters.
No, you need the artists because otherwise it is corporate. It is corporate trying to make content, trying to get the next project out month to month, year to year. And at this point, I think we only have 1 or 2 shows of Star Wars coming out, really, every year. I might be wrong about this. No, I'm wrong because we have Tales of the Underworld on Disney Plus. We had Andor, and then we had Skeleton Crew. But even with Skeleton Crew is a proof of this too. You had someone who was a writer and director of Skeleton Crew. Was it Levi as well? Who did Skeleton Crew?
That was the gentleman that did the Spider-Man films.
John Watts.
John Watts.
So this is also proof as well. You had John Watts, who had a proven track record of handling big budget, understanding how to write decent scripts. And Skeleton Crew was liked by quite a bit of people, even if you were upset with what was going on across the board.
The brand had been diluted.
Even then, because Skeleton Crew was still liked by families, and it was the point of, it was very heartwarming for a lot of people who wanted to watch Star Wars that was heartwarming and full of depth with some of these lovable characters of kids. It proves the point that artists need to pick the artists. They need to know what they're doing. And
not think that you know better. Not think that you know better. Like that's the whole point. The studio manages, and they know this in Hollywood. This isn't some new thing. They've always known this. The studio can have their input. They can put their notes.
Sure.
But they know that if they keep doing that, which is what Kathleen Kennedy's very good at, use that word good lightly.
Yeah.
If you keep putting in notes and you keep frustrating your writers, that they keep quitting and you keep having to cancel your shows, that means at the very top of that process, you giving as many notes as you have been is probably the catalyst to where you are now, where you have canceled shows, you have fired writers for differences of an opinion, right? Differences on where you see the story going. Hey, guess what? We don't care. Go count the money when it's all done.
Yeah.
Let the writers that you hired in good faith
Mm-hmm.
to give you a good story, let them write that good story. Don't give them notes, or at least don't give them as many as you have been
Mm-hmm.
with some asinine ideas, because that's going to conflict with the whole point of why you hired them.
Right.
If you, better put, if you think you can do a better job, you know what?
Hmm.
The story of the rumor that she won't leave until she gets a win.
Until she gets.
Okay,
I've seen
you know
those rumors.
what?
Yeah.
I want to put a challenge.
Andor was her win.
I want to
Bye.
put a challenge out there, and this will be a make or break. Kathleen Kennedy, write, direct, and produce your own Star Wars film.
Absolutely.
Do it.
Try it. See how it
Do
goes.
it. You know how you would want to write.
Mm-hmm.
You know where the where the money's coming from, and you know what morals and what messages you want to push out.
Try
Make
it.
your own
See
film.
how it goes.
Make your own film. Be the creative.
Well, here's
Don't
the thing.
hire anybody new.
She has been an executive producer for all these films, but
That's the best
again,
win.
I think this also proves my point. She had Steven Spielberg
Yeah.
and George Lucas be the people, the pillars of her success. Now, I'm not taking away anything.
from it.
I'm not taking away anything of her accomplishments of being able to bring the crew together and be the producer and do that accomplishments. But in terms of why these projects were successful, it's because of the stories.
Yeah.
It's not because of the executive producer. It's because of the writers and the directors who made these films. I think this adds to the point.
Yeah.
This adds to the point. She did luck out with Tony Gilroy with Andor, so the reason why, yeah, I know you mentioned like with Andor, the first season being boring. I do think there was also room for people who wanted Star Wars to also have kind of a serious tone,
Yeah.
or
I got
actually,
that.
because we are talking about going into depths of real serious tones and even some darker themes.
Yeah,
And the
I like
first
the first few episodes.
yeah, I will
But
even
season
admit there
overruns.
are some sections of the arcs within the second season in the beginning that obviously is just it's all right, but it really is the last 3 episodes that brings it all together.
Yeah.
It allows all that fruition, all that building up to have a conclusion, and it's also added a huge slate on my watch party.
Yeah.
That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Because I will watch it. I mean, maybe some parts I won't like. I'll skip through, but. And with that said, guys, we hope for the best. We really do hope for the best for Star Wars to develop these new projects. With whoever is going to take over for Lucasfilms in this upcoming year, with all these new projects being announced, Mandalorian, Grogu, if you're excited for it or not, I still hope it's good. I really do. I really hope it's good. With Ahsoka Season 2 coming out, with The Starfighter, which is my probably most anticipated film for Star Wars, to get back into theaters and actually watch something on an IMAX screen, that of seeing these guys in their pods, in their starfighters and rogue squadrons, fighting each other in space battles. That sounds amazing to me. That sounds exciting for me to actually go and spend my money in the theater to watch a Star Wars film.